Hello, everyone, and welcome to PostGrad Entertainment presents PostGrad Movies, the podcast where the opinions are made up on the spot and the spoilers don't matter. That's right, the spoilers are like government employees to Congress.
Is that really? Is that really what you?
That is exactly what I think I needed to do, because considering the fact that we finally went live with our podcast and we might have people watching it now, I feel like I gotta get I gotta get current,
Yeah,
and
political.
current, political, and I also need to make sure that there's a bit of comedy, and everyone knows that the best comedy is stolen from other people. So
Yeah, you're like the regular Daily Show.
exactly, yeah. No, it's a good setup.
Okay.
Anyway, I am Cool Guy Right Pad, and you are
The cognitive gamer.
and
Again,
and
Howard.
and we are here to hang out and talk. So, what did you do this week?
Well, I'll start off with this. I am a little bit under the weather, so I apologize now if I sound snuffly or you hear like some nose.
Sniffles?
So gross. Yeah. Hopefully it's not that bad. That was pretty bad. I'll refrain.
I'm gonna go ahead and not edit it out, so everyone can hear the snot in your nose.
No, edit. I want you to painstakingly. I'm gonna do it like once every minute, so that like you have to go through that and just be like, like hate me when I'm not there.
You're a piece of just. I'll isolate it, and all I'll hear is it'll loop, and it'll go just over and over and over again.
Yeah, that could be our next podcast.
Just an entire podcast of you sniffles. That sounds awful. Anyway, go ahead. Tell me about your week.
I had a good weekend / week.
And what did you do?
I did not watch a lot of movies.
Very nice.
I had to watch, but I actually watched a lot of other things that are not movies. Like I went to the orchestra.
You went to the orchestra?
The orchestra. I went. Philadelphia Philharmonic Orchestra. I think that's what they're called. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's a big one. It had like a free night, so I went and saw them, and they're fantastic.
That's
I went there with my buddy Cynic 25. Oh yeah, I know. I worked him in there, and I went with my landlord and his friend, and we watched the orchestra. It's quite nice. Apparently, they have a new conductor that's like young and openly gay, and he's great. Then I went to a gay bar afterwards.
With Cynic?
Yes. And my landlord and his buddy. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, I can imagine it is.
It was a very chill atmosphere. It was like as soon as you walked in, though, you're like, "Oh, this is a gay bar." But it was very nice. The waiter hit on me, which I found flattering. Why are you laughing?
That's just so funny. Because you always, when we were in Colorado, you always wanted to go to that one gay bar in Denver.
Everybody always wants to go to Trax because Trax is crazy. This was not Trax. This was like super low key. It was nice. It was wonderful. It was very nice people, and I got hit on. So I'm gonna say that again. I got hit on by a gay man, and it was flattering. I'm not gay, for the record. I'm homosexual, but it still feels nice.
Right. That's awesome.
Adding to this, I went to a musical the next night. Again.
Which opera did you go to, and which musical did you go to?
I didn't go to an opera.
You just went to listen to the Philharmonic.
The orchestra. Yeah, they played instruments.
Oh, that's nice. Yes, instruments.
Yeah. Have you heard? Yeah,
Have I ever heard instruments?
Have you ever heard of instruments? There's a flute. It was very cool.
No, sorry. In Puerto Rico, we just take sticks and we knock them against coconuts and call that music. So
totally. You know. No, that makes sense. You don't have electricity or running water.
Right,
so.
Right. Yeah.
You're currently on a bike pedaling to actually record this podcast.
No, I have about 50 guinea pigs off to the side, just running for their lives.
Anyway, I saw a musical. It was very good at St. Joseph's University. It was Next to Normal. It's about a mother that has bipolar / schizophrenia. And it's like about the family learning to deal with it. So
that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's like a rock musical. It won awards years ago. I don't know.
Oh.
Like it's fairly new, 2010, but
yeah, right.
Point is, I took in the arts this weekend, and it was quite refreshing. And then I played Grand Theft Auto to equal it out.
So you went out, you were a fancy son of a bitch, and then you come back, and then you kill prostitutes.
Yeah, I actually dressed up. I was in really nice clothes. and then I came home and then I killed
And you
prostitutes.
didn't take those clothes off. You just played
No, I
prostitutes in a suit.
sat in like my super nice dress clothes and played Grand Theft Auto and felt like a baller.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
What'd you do this week/weekend?
Oh man. Oh, well, I finally got everything in working order for our YouTube channel, which is PostGrad. You can find us as PostGrad Games, PostGrad Movies, anything like that. So, yeah, we have a working YouTube channel with cover art and all that jazz. Worked on that with my dad, who happens to be a graphic designer.
So you
And
did a plug this weekend.
yeah, this weekend I worked on a shameless plug.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
I actually went to a casting call here in Puerto Rico. Yeah, right? It
For
was
what?
for a show called Crossbones. That is a pirate television show that's going to air in ABC, I think, next year. And it actually has Hugh Laurie in it. So who knows? If I get selected, I might get to hang out with Hugh Laurie. It's a typical, I suppose, typecasting because they want people that look like pirates. So my hair was already longish to begin with right now, and I hadn't shaved. So I thought, I'll go. So I went over there, got to talking with a bunch of people while we were hanging out. They took my picture or whatever. And one of the person that was right next to me happened to be an ecologist that runs his own company. So he asked for my information and told me to get into contact with him to see if I can work for him in conservation. So if I don't get the extra job, I will start working for an ecology company.
I feel like you should just go for the ecology company and not the extra for some piece of crap ABC show that hasn't even been greenlit yet.
Right.
Greenlighted.
No, it's definitely been greenlit, and it's gonna shoot here in Puerto Rico in Ceiba. Anyway, the last thing that I did this week was yesterday. I got into contact with another person that's doing some conservation work, and I'm going to be working with the conservation of the Puerto Rican parrot. So,
Puerto Rican parrot?
yes, we have an endemic species of parrot that is critically endangered, and I'm
So
going
you killed the last of them.
No, I'm actually going to be working on conservation efforts through a lab in the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez. So I'll be doing some actual biology work, which is nice considering the fact that I've been out of school for almost 6 months and I finally am starting to get some biology stuff out of it.
Does it pay?
No, this is volunteer work. So I'll have a job and then I'll be volunteering to do this. I don't care. As long as I get some biology stuff on my resume, I'm totally okay with it.
That's
The
true.
the one for the ecologist that has his own company, that one might be paid. It might be an internship that's unpaid. It might be an internship that's paid, whatever. I just want to get my foot in the door with biology and then I'll worry about money later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can just get a full ride like me.
Oh, wait. Hey, you have a little bit of stuff on your. Can you just brush it off? Just brush your just on the.
Do I have some
Yeah,
dirt on my
yeah,
shoulder?
yeah. It's a little bit to the left of your neck. You should just brush it off. Brush it.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, good job. Good job. I'm proud of you. So yeah, I did that. I did that, and then I watched Gravity finally because it came
Oh.
out. It came out today, actually, Thursday, October 10th,
Puerto Rico.
in Puerto Rico,
Came out last week for
and it sucked because Cognitive Gamer
Not the
saw
movie.
it. Yeah, Cognitive Gamer saw it, and he had to refrain from telling me anything for a week, and then I
I
find.
just kind of didn't talk to you.
R-
But honestly, I just stopped. Oh, I can't talk to him.
I can't
He
say
doesn't
anything.
exist anymore.
And that's actually the perfect segue because we're finally going to be able to talk about Gravity, which is our theater pick for the week.
Oh,
And
that was one hell of a segue.
we have only one movie to talk about this week, which is in fact Gravity. So to get started, we have Gravity, whose IMDb rating is 8.7 out of 10. The Rotten Tomatoes rating is 97%, and then the top critics score is a 100%.
What's the
Perfect
low?
score.
What's the lowest critic?
The lowest
I'm
critic
putting you on. Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
the lowest critic score on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah,
What do you mean? Because
like who gave it the lowest rating
The-
and what was that score?
there was no lowest top critics. They were all 100% scores. Because you know how Rotten Tomatoes works. Rotten Tomatoes is a yay or a nay. It's
Yeah.
either fresh or rotten. So there's no really lowest score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, but there's somebody who gave it a not fresh if it's only in a 97.
Right.
And I want to know who that person is so we can go and kill them. Or at least torture them.
The main person that gave it something bad was actually from the AV Club. Isn't the AV Club from The Onion?
I don't know.
Because I believe the AV Club is the legitimate section of The Onion that does movie reviews. But the person that was from the AV Club that at least I heard of gave it a raving review. And I don't know why. Apparently, this guy Ben Kinzingberg or something like that, he gave it a bad review because he said that it was watching Gravity often feels like watching an especially long prep reel for Star Tours without ever being allowed to board the ride.
I can get that. I get it, but he's wrong. Like, I understand his biggest complaint was that it wasn't a movie.
Right.
It was a thrill ride. And at the same time, that's no.
I don't know why he's saying it wasn't a movie, because I most definitely went to a theater, sat down, looked at moving pictures.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily make it a movie.
Yes, it does.
Just because you see it in a theater.
What is a movie? A movie is a motion picture. Okay.
I get it. It's a motion picture. But I mean, you could sit down in a theater and watch something. I think there's certain things that it has to be a movie,
Like,
without it also being like just a disjuncted thrill ride. And
fair enough.
I mean, I don't know. I can't think of any examples. The first person segment in Doom was not a movie. That was stupid.
Okay.
Doom was a bad movie. You know what I'm saying here, though?
I do.
If it was an entire movie of that, of saying somebody first person shoot a bunch of stupid things, that's not a movie. That's not a movie. But even though you're in a theater and you watch it.
Yeah, right.
I guess if you know what I mean. Maybe it's still a movie, but it's not a very good movie. I don't know how to.
Yeah. The only other person that I can really remember is this one guy from Slant Magazine or Slate Magazine. Don't remember which one. And he said that it was gut-wrenching and immersive, but it was ultimately all effect and little affect, which hurts me.
But even if it is all effect, that doesn't necessarily, again, that like, I think you could still have a good movie.
No. He said it was all effect, like special effect.
Yeah, I know.
And
no,
then no effect, like it doesn't affect you as
I know, it has no emotion.
Yeah.
I'm saying you can still have a good movie that has zero emotion. I mean, I guess. I don't know. That's also a thing that also would make it a movie, wouldn't it? Would be emotion. Again, going back to Doom in the first person, you had no emotion. It was just stupid shooting.
Can we pause for a second and revel in the fact that we are comparing Gravity to Doom?
Okay. It's Sharknado. That was a pretty shitty movie that also had no effects. Gravity is Sharknado. It's just better.
Gravity is like Sharknado, except better.
It's a better Sharknado. I think it's the next thing they do. They combine Gravity with Sharknado, and it's like a Sharknado in space, like a black hole of sharks.
Gravity is like
awesome.
Gravity is like
Shark
Trolls
Hole.
2, but with better acting.
I know. It would just be called Shark Hole. It's a dark hole that has sharks in it, and you fall into it, get eaten alive by black hole sharks. Antimatter.
Dear God.
And I hope you edit this so it just doesn't make any sense.
Anyway, so this movie is
Gravity.
basically directed by Alfonso Cuarón, who's an amazing director. It was written by himself and his son, I believe, Jonas Cuarón or Jonas Cuarón. And we have to mention, apart from Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, who were the main stars of the movie, we have to mention the fact that
besides actual stars.
Right, we had to mention Stephen Price, who is the person that scored the movie. He needs to be recognized.
The music was great. The music, I felt,
it was so good.
It was very atmospheric. It almost had like a Pink Floydish tone to it, as it had a lot of ins and outs and atmospheric, if that makes any sense. It was groovy and psychedelic, but also was interstellar.
Wow, that was awful. That was basically like something I would read in a newspaper headline. Groovy and psychedelic, yet still interstellar. A Gravity review.
It was... Shut up, man. It's hard to. I don't know. It was groovy. It was catchy. It was full of oomph, but also downplayed and subtle. I don't know.
It was
It,
what you're trying to say is that it was amazing when it needed to be. It was strong when it was necessary, but it was also subtle to make everyone feel in the moment when it didn't need to overshadow the acting.
precisely.
And I also noticed the fact that I think personally that the way that they used music was very, very similar to in 2001: A Space Odyssey, where they were using the music to tell the story. So, since there was no sound in space, which was wonderful, by the way, can I just say that? Amazing.
Mm.
They used the music to let you know what was happening and to give you those whooshing sounds when stuff was flying by you or when something was breaking. You could hear, a strong punch of music and then sort of like which was all the pieces flying out into space. And when things were exploding, you'd hear like strong low notes. And it was so good, and it was nowhere more present than in the initial hit of the pieces that were floating around when Sandra Bullock was strapped to the arm of her spaceship and everything started breaking and the spaceship was flying in circles and circles and circles, and she kept on flying past the camera and then going away and then flying past the camera and going away, and you could hear the music was basically following her. It was going like vroom, 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 again and again and again every single time that she was flying in front of the camera, which
It was very
shivers.
2001.
It was.
I think the use of sound effects was very effective,
Right.
and it really brought you in. And that's why I think this movie is very much a theater movie.
That's
Like
true.
watching it at home would not have that same oomph that it would in a movie theater because of the sound, and also because of the the I don't know what I'm trying to say here. The the inclusion, the immersive
The immersive
experience.
experience, right? Unless you have some sort of really expensive surround sound that you can,
Yeah,
fiddle around with and make it actually feel like you're in a theater per se.
right. I mean, if you have the correct technology. Point is what I'm trying to say. For the common man, watch this in a movie theater because of the immersive experience. There's a lot of first person action. There's a lot of sound effects that kind of creep in and out, which you would probably lose in a TV speaker.
That's true.
And not to mention the 3D, which was fantastic, and I think defined and really made a good use of the 3D. This is the reason why 3D exists in movies, is because of experiences like this. If this movie was not in 3D, I think it would actually detract from the film, which is why I feel like very deservingly so. This movie can only be seen in 3D, because without the 3D, you would lose part of it. You would lose a piece of that immersiveness that this film does so well at doing.
Did
You're
any
giving me
did
looks. I already
did
know that you hate 3D.
did anyone else notice the way that he kept on trying to cut me off? Because I don't know if we've talked about this before here
No, we
on
haven't.
PostGrad,
No.
but the cognitive gamer loves 3D. He loves him some 3D,
I like good 3D.
and and I am very vehemently against 3D. I do not like 3D at all, and I think it detracts from a movie, or at least
How
from
about
the
this
movie
one?
experience. But for this movie, he told me that I needed to go see it in 3D, and he would not give me the choice to not go see it in not 3D. Did that make sense?
That's
He
a
did
terrible
not he did
sentence.
not let me go to the movie theater unless I was going to watch it in 3D.
Because
So
I held your hand from across.
right. So I needed to go see it in 3D, and I did go and see it in 3D. And I think that this type of a movie is definitely what 3D was made for.
Happy touchdown.
though,
Touchdown. Get
though,
it? Because it's like space shuttles. They touch down. Anyway.
those, you're just
And also
waiting
the
for
football
all of the
play.
puns.
Oh, so many.
Oh,
No, that was off the top of my head. That was a good one.
but, but I did see it in 3D, and I do think that they used 3D very, very well. Though they did have a lot of the 3D gimmicks that they tend to have to make the 3D more present, you know, where they tend to force something on the audience that is 3D. Oh, something is floating towards the camera. Oh no.
But I feel like that was meant to be, it did it on purpose because it was trying to make you feel either as Sandra Bullock's character Ryan Stone or as like the fourth astronaut. It did it in a way not to
Or
be like you're watching a 3D movie. It was you're this other person in this
right,
movie.
right. Or it was trying to make you appreciate space. Like when they were unscrewing all of the little things from the Hubble and it floated up and she tried to grab it, you know, and you saw that she was kind of a bit of a novice up there in space. She tried to grab it and then it sort of bounced off her hand. She was like, oh, oh, and then it started flying away and George Clooney kind of like swung around and grabbed it back. It was trying to, you're right, it was trying to immerse you in space. And it did that really, really well. Like the shots where they had the stars way far back, then Earth a little bit closer, and then the astronauts way closer to you, both of them just floating there. It did do a masterful job. It is what 3D was made for. Now, do I think that you cannot enjoy this movie unless it's in 3D? No, 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 no. I'm definitely going to buy this movie on Blu-ray and it's going to look phenomenal because I think that you don't need 3D to give perspective. It added a little bit to it, and I agree that this is probably the only movie that I would ever recommend to anyone to watch in 3D. And yes, this includes Avatar for everyone here that thinks that Avatar was the greatest thing ever in 3D.
Yeah,
And
that movie. I don't like that movie.
and yeah, I think that it's probably the first and perhaps the only movie that'll ever come out unless 3D gets better and or the directors stop being crap that
Well,
deserves to
Avatar
be
2's coming out, so I mean,
uh, that deserves being watched in 3D, you know?
okay. The Disney movies in 3D were awesome. Lion King 3D was sweet. Anyway, Gravity was a fantastic movie.
I'm leaving that entire silence in there because it was necessary.
No, it's fine.
But yeah, Gravity was absolutely phenomenal. And one part that really impressed me was the technical aspect of it. The fact that this movie, Alfonso Cuarón needed to know exactly what was going into all of the shots, exactly where the sun was going to be, exactly where the earth was going to be, exactly what was happening to the character every single time, because Sandra Bullock basically filmed inside her head, inside a little helmet thingy, and then everything else is green screened. And they had lights that were done robotically that would orbit around her over and over and over again to capture the sun spinning around when she got lost in space. Anything else, like all of the characters that were in front of her or any type of smudging that needed to be done, was done specifically by either orbiting the camera or by lights. And then that one gorgeous, gorgeous scene, or at least shot, where the camera was following her spinning around and then got closer and closer and closer. And it was a shot right by her face. You could see the actual visor, and then all of a sudden it just goes right through the visor, and all of a sudden you can hear everything. You can hear her breathing, the air, tiny little beeps, and her getting freaked out on what she can see, and then it comes back out, pops out of the visor, and all of a sudden it's silence. Oh, shivers, man.
Did you get sick during that scene?
No.
I got a little queasy.
No, I didn't.
But she's just spinning around and
Around and around.
And like it's in like first person, and I was like, I'm getting a little sick.
It disorients you. It
Oh,
disorients you
totally.
and makes you feel, it makes you feel as helpless as she is, you know?
Yeah, which was great. Again, the immersive part of it and the fact that it was 3D definitely added to it because the visor was in 3D and you saw different things in it. It was like gave you a little bit of perspective of this is where that is in relation to you. Again,
It was
3D.
really great in the way that it managed to show all of the technology in space. And I read that Buzz Aldrin actually said that this movie was very impressive. And for a person that pretty much did the first spacewalk and was the second man on the moon, to say that this movie impressed him.
I bet Buzz Aldrin says that to all the pretty ladies.
I don't think he's saying that
or
Sandra
new
Bullock impressed
technologies.
him. I think he's saying that the movie impressed him. I don't think he was sitting there in the theater chewing on some popcorn, going like, "Hey, hey, Sandra Bullock." You know, I just
You never know though, and I mean, he probably also said the same thing to an iPhone. He's like, "This has impressed me. I landed on the moon, and this is impressive."
that sounds like some sort of really bad infomercial.
I can see Buzz Aldrin being the bad infomercial. This gets rid of stains, and it amazes me. And I'm Buzz Aldrin, and I'm from the moon. I totally see that happening. I'm surprised more astronauts didn't sell themselves out.
That's true. That's true. Anyway,
Like that justifies it somehow. That they somehow know what good house cleaning products were because they went into outer space. Doesn't make any sense.
more
So
on
special effects
Gravity
of Gravity.
were amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, so how long do you think that took to do all that?
I don't think I'm even on the same planet as the people that are able to make these special effects. And when I say on the same planet, I mean I'm here and they're probably in Gleezy trying to, and by that I don't mean the star, I mean any of those planets that are orbiting at A, B, C, D, whatever you want to call them.
That missed everybody. That joke missed everybody.
That's not a joke. I'm saying I am
it was like a satellite.
I am at the very least light years away from anything similar to the experience necessary to comment on this. But I don't know. You have got to hand it to the rotoscopers. You've got to hand it to the 3D coordinators, all of the modelers, everything. It was awe-inspiring. It was monumental cinematography. That's the only way I can describe it. It was cinematography that is beyond imagination. It was too much.
Beyond imagination.
Beyond
That should be the
imagination.
tagline for the movie. Gravity, beyond imagination.
It's true. It's true. It's too much. That it was like a painting. Every shot was like a painting.
That's true.
And
I would hang up any shot from that movie
and put it
in
on
my
your
living
wall, right?
Yeah, the frame. And I
I-
don't even have frames on most of my paintings.
I think
own.
if I wanted to go all impactful, I would have the shot where she was flying, spinning over and over in space, and then all you see are stars behind her, the Milky Way. I would have that shot if I wanted an area, to make me realize how short life is and how perilous our adventures out into space might be. I'd have that one. But if I wanted one that was just raw beauty, I would have the shot where George Clooney was talking about how wonderful the sunrise is in space.
Yeah.
And he's just floating there, and he's tethered to Sandra Bullock, and it's just the tethers flying around, and Sandra Bullock is behind him in a different position. You see Earth and then the sunrise behind them.
That's what I was gonna say.
God.
You took mine.
Dear God, that
I
shot.
bet Buzz Aldrin would say that's impressive. In fact, he did. Buzz Aldrin said it was impressive.
Did Buzz Aldrin say it was impressive? I don't know. I think
You just said that Buzz Aldrin said this movie was impressive.
That was sarcasm.
That includes that scene.
That was sarcasm.
And
I think it flew over your head like a satellite, right?
Anyway.
God, you and your terrible jokes.
So what did you think of the emotional impact of the film? Did you cry like a little baby?
I actually
cried like a little baby.
See,
most because I went to see it alone and I felt sad.
I was alone too, and
we could be sad together. Oh,
the part that really really got to me was the combination, and I realized it. I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is really getting to me. And it was the end when she says, one of two things is going to happen here. Either I'm going to make it to Earth and I'm going to have one hell of a story, or I'm going to burn up in the atmosphere in the next 10 minutes. And she was just floating down into the atmosphere, and you just get that majestic, and I don't even know how to describe that music. It was like it was almost an epiphany. It was almost like
that's precisely what it was.
It was wonderful. It was crescendos and strings and absolutely engrossing, and she was sitting there laughing and crying, and you get shots of everything burning up in the atmosphere from above the Earth, and you see the tiny specks, fizzle into nothing, and you're sitting there and you're feeling completely, I don't know, tears of joy and tears of sadness and tears of you are gonna die, but you're okay with it. It was,
That sounds so depressing.
that is exactly how I felt.
Okay. Not the part where she's talking to her dead daughter,
That,
or the part where she's about to commit suicide,
well,
essentially.
I felt really sad in those parts, but I felt that the true moment when her acting and her character came out was when she was plummeting to Earth.
I
Which
agree.
which makes sense because the movie's called Gravity. I mean, I mean that is
It really pulls you in, doesn't it?
that is exactly what Alfonso Cuarón set out to do. He set out to give you the oomph of the movie when they're falling to Earth, and then all of a sudden gravity takes hold at the end, and it all comes to a close. That is exactly what he was going for, and that is exactly what happened. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. It was perfect. It was perfect.
What do you think when George Clooney showed up again? Because like people in the audience, when I was there, they're like, "Oh, I totally knew it was gonna be him! Yay!" And I was like, "This is fucking stupid."
That is
Sorry for
exactly
cursing. I was like, "No, this is impossible. If this actually happens like this, I'm done.
no.
This lost me."
You know what? Actually, I thought the exact same thing, but I didn't think that George Clooney came back and it's all good. What I thought was George Clooney was there, and all of a sudden he just opens the airlock, and I thought
Yeah, that was.
I was like, how, what? And then he climbs in, closes it, and she's fine. And that
Yeah,
messed with my head because I was so immersed in the movie
yeah.
that I was thinking, there's no way that this is even remotely possible. Why are you doing this right now? Why? And then all of a sudden she snaps back to
Yeah.
it being a dream.
Did your audience awe? Like when that happened, literally people around me were like, "Oh,
No,
oh
no.
no," and I was like, "Yes,
My
thank you, movie,
my
saved."
audience was more a bit more affected by it because they were like, oh, he's there, like they were excited that he was there, but they
Yeah.
weren't like, oh, I knew it, they
No,
were
that's not what my audience
right,
were.
right,
They were
right,
like excited. They're just excited for something hopeful
right, right,
instead of
right, right.
how
Something
dreary and
hopeful
depressing this
in the
was.
dreariness of the movie.
Yeah,
But yeah, they were excited that you could feel that they were a bit happier. They didn't think they were gonna make it, but they were a bit happier.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden you see that he's not there, and you can hear the silence in the
yeah.
audience,
Totally right. As soon as he disappears, it was just dead silent.
and you realize that she was alone, and everyone was just you could feel the tension in the air. You could feel their hopes being crushed.
Which is weird because the movie's about hopelessness, but but in fact, it's actually about hope and triumph.
It's about finding the hope inside you. It's about going out into space, a place that resembles inside of all of us. Inside of all of us, we're all alone essentially, and it's about finding yourself and being able to come back to Earth, to bring yourself back,
So,
from the brink.
so I'm currently writing a little editorial about gravity and its symbolism and how it is about rebirth, but actually the symbolism resembles more of actual birth.
That's true.
How
That's true.
it, I mean, there's a very explicit scene, but I'll get to that. I even took it so far to be like the astronauts are sperm. They're sperm, and outer space is like the female body because it's impossible to have life inside of a female body besides obviously the unfertilized egg and everything like that.
And what's supposed to be there?
Yeah, it's about the journey, and it's seriously like as soon as the scene where they get to the Russian space shuttle, because that's the most explicit birth metaphor in the entire movie, where she like goes into a fetal position, and then there's a random cord that makes it look like an umbilical cord. I was like, holy shit, this movie is about birth. It's about rebirth and birth, but it's so explicit about it. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, everything fits in it, and it's kind of gross how well it fits into it. How how you start off and you're like almost naive. You have your past life, and then you get ejected. I chose that word for a reason into outer space, and you're alone, and you have to make this journey to some other area that's unknown. And then you only have one astronaut, Sandra Bullock, go inside the Russian space shuttle. Kind of like there's only one sperm that goes inside of an egg,
And
and then she
then
becomes an embryo.
no, no, no. Not just that. Let me go ahead and give you a little bit extra biology in this. Not only that, but now that you mention stuff like that, it makes sense biologically because of the fact that she gets into the Russian spaceship and then she fertilized the egg. But keep in mind that most eggs are fertilized in the fallopian tubes and they still have to make it all the way to the uterus.
Right.
So she goes into the Russian spacecraft and then she leaves the International Space Station and goes to the
Chinese.
Chinese space station.
Yeah, I know. I
Exactly.
was getting to that.
Exactly. And then from the Chinese, she goes straight to Earth.
Which I think that's more. I think the journey from the Russian to the Chinese is almost like the 9-month gestation period, just because that's where the growth happens. And for Ryan, for Sandra Bullock, that's where the growth happens with her. She learns to get over the death of her daughter by saying goodbye. She learns that yes, she is alone, but she can make it. That's really where she learns her triumph and that she wants to live.
Right.
Which obviously a baby doesn't do that, but in fact, in kind of a way, she is a baby. And then of course, the scene where they're going towards Earth is like birth.
Of course.
As it's very violent. It's very almost like this intimate doom that kind of looms over you. And then as soon as she hits Earth, what happens then? She opens the door and it floods in.
Exactly.
I'm like, okay.
And then she has to swim up outside.
Then she has to swim up, and then when she gets there, she can't walk. I'm like, okay, this is birth. This is the moment where it happens.
Right.
Like, it's so creepy how well you overlay an actual birth over this story about rebirth and this.
It just. So what you're saying is we can say that this movie is perfect.
It has everything you could ever want.
It is essentially everything that you could want. It is metaphors, it is symbolism, it is beautiful, it is perfect cinematography, amazing special effects, wonderful acting, wonderful characters, three-dimensional to the max, not only the characters but the movie. It's immersive, it is wonderful, and it is a sight to behold.
Yeah, I would say it's one of the best movies. Definitely released this year, but for a lot of years, and probably hopefully next year something comes along the way that also uses 3D in this manner. Yeah, it's a really good movie. I would hazard perfect. I wouldn't call it. I would call it a masterpiece in the realm of this new genre, which is 3D. I mean, it still felt like it was. From the emotional side, it was a little manipulative. Oh, she has a dead daughter. Oh, no, she's crying over the dead daughter.
I felt like it was. I felt like it was a new age, or at least a modern retelling of 2001: A Space Odyssey. It was
in its cinematography and its use of camera.
Well, also about the fact that it was very pensive at points, and it was very calm and very eerie. And it felt like it. I mean, I can understand why some people wouldn't like this. For example, some people were walking out of the theater when I was there, and they thought that the movie was crap. I can't. What? They were saying that. They were saying specifically, they were like, "Yeah, the movie was stupid. That was so dumb. That was crap. It was boring." And I was sitting.
How could you even think that? How could that movie be boring?
I don't even know. I don't.
It was like being in a Disney ride.
It was. I don't know how you can even begin to say that movie was awful, but apparently they didn't like it. And I mean, a lot of people fall asleep during 2001: A Space Odyssey, you know?
Yeah, but this movie was not 2001.
I know. I'm saying
the down scenes in this movie literally takes up 1/10 of that movie.
Exactly.
Most of it is like this nonstop adrenaline thrill ride.
But when it's pensive, it's really pensive, and it really lets you be there, especially through George Clooney's character, who is constantly in awe of everything that's around him.
Right.
And I found myself identifying a lot with his character, mostly because I love space.
Right.
And he I know that if I went up there, I would be exactly like him. I'd be right there staring at Earth the entire time in complete awe of what I was seeing.
Yeah. The quiet I think you're right. The quiet moments really allowed for the little bit of characterization and character progression. It also allowed, for you to actually feel the emotion behind the motivation. You can really feel the gravity of the situation. And I'm gonna let that one slide. But no, seriously, it was very effective.
It was
It was like an orchestra. You had the quiet moments that led up to the crescendo, and then it held off, and then it ended with a mighty triumph. It was like the orchestra.
It was.
Except this time I didn't go to a gay bar afterwards.
And can we mention really quick before we finish the fact that Alfonso Cuarón, who is a master, an absolute master of the long takes, long shots, did you notice that this movie maybe had 30, 20, 30, maybe 40 takes, shots, specific shots where the camera cut? It
Yeah,
was,
I did. Which I felt at a little bit of times it almost seemed like he was trying too hard to do that.
but at
But at
this,
the same time, it was
it
beautiful.
was wonderful. The
Yeah,
moves, the movement was so fluid, and it
yeah,
just moved from one character to the other, and it made you feel like you were, like you said, like you were part of the action and you were
right.
there with them, and you were running back and forth between them, going like, what's going on, what can I do, how do I approach this situation? And it really added to it, because
I agree.
like the shot that we mentioned before, where it goes through the helmet and then it comes back out through the helmet, and it was all in one shot, and it really helped you to realize the difference between the outside and the inside, and what was going on with Sandra Bullock. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
no,
was quiet and she was freaking out, and then all of a sudden, and everything was muted, and she had nothing around her, and then you go inside and you realize, wait, she's protected. She has everything outside around her, and she can survive. And then it popped you back out, and and made you realize again, damn, this is tough. But at the same time, it took you through the motions with the movements of the camera, and it was wonderful.
I think the only scene I had a problem with that was at the very end with the frog. And I don't know. She got out and then she's taking off her suit and then it like goes to this random frog and then drifts back. And I'm like, okay, either that frog means something or they just needed something to look at while she takes off her suit. Because that's probably not too exciting to watch.
Right. There was a subtle pull focus to the actual parachute a little bit, but see, that's something that happens in 3D a lot. Pull focusing doesn't work very well in 3D, so having something in the front being all foggy and then pulling focus to it or from it, if that's in focus, it doesn't really work very well in 3D, because for 3D to be appreciated, you need everything to be in focus. So I didn't really like, for example, when it's focused on Sandra Bullock's character, and then you have little droplets of water floating, and then they get all foggy and foggy and foggy and foggy, and all of a sudden it pulls focus to them, and then it pulls focus back to Sandra Bullock. It's iffy. If it was 2D, it would work very well with the pull focus, but if it's 3D, pull focus does not work as well as intended. And everything around you in 3D also looks very kind of foggy, except for the
Mm.
Earth. Did you notice that? Did you notice that the characters and their spacesuits and stuff kind of had a bit of motion blur, and they were kind of foggy because of the 3D? It wasn't as sharp and as beautiful as you could have gotten it.
I thought that was on purpose.
No, that was totally the 3D. That's what happens in 3D, because you're watching it and you have two images basically being displayed to your eye. Your eye mixes them together, and then you get a bit of motion blur in there. So
Mm.
the images aren't as sharp as they could be and as beautiful as they could be. So even though it looks really nice in 3D, I want to see it in Blu-ray, 2D Blu-ray, so that I can appreciate the wonderfulness that was that movie.
Just wait for it to get re-released in like 10 years when we have awesome 3D. It's like built into our Google Glass.
Right, right.
And all
Okay.
right, what's
Okay.
next? Gravity is amazing.
Gravity's amazing. Go watch it. Go watch it in 3D, in 2D, whatever. I really don't care. Go watch that damn movie.
You should watch it in 3D IMAX. That also has what is it called? With like the moving chairs.
Oh, right. That weird
Yeah.
like extra 4D or whatever kind of thing.
Well, yeah. They have theaters like that, and I really want to go. And there's one in Philly, but it's like in Center City, and I'm not going to Center City to go see a movie that throws me around.
But yeah, go watch Gravity is the
Yeah, go watch.
critique that we will give you. You obviously heard all the praise.
Hopefully you saw it before you listened to that because we just ruined it.
Right. And if you haven't, go watch it.
Or watch it again.
Or watch it again. I'm gonna go watch it again this
I
weekend with my family and
I
with everybody else. It's gonna be
I
wonderful.
want to go watch it again to see if my birthing thing actually lines up. Even though my article is going to be an electric feast probably before that.
Right. For the record, I completely agree with your birthing thing. I think
No,
it's
yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
it's 100% accurate.
you wouldn't have a scene to make her look like an embryo if that type of metaphor wasn't present the entire movie.
Right.
Like that's a weird random scene to have if it wasn't
Right.
an overlaying theme.
Right. Okay, so anyway, moving on, we are going to go ahead and blaze on through to our Netflix movie spotlight, totally not sponsored by Netflix
Yeah.
yet.
I don't. We have to get on that. We have to write a letter to Netflix.
So we have
Dear
this
Netflix,
section.
thank you so much for your entertainment that you bring us that I pay for. Would you please sponsor my podcast?
It's they're gonna send something back saying that we can't use their name, so it'll be the Bleep movie spotlight, totally not sponsored by Bleep yet.
The movie streaming service that we can't name.
That has a red
Spotlight
background.
of the week. The one that almost sued us.
That one.
Yeah. Okay.
So okay. So the Netflix movie spotlight. What movie was it? Cog Games.
It was American Mary.
And it has a 6.1 rating on IMDb, a 57% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 45% top critic score, and a 46% Metacritic rating. Oh, wait a second. I almost forgot. I didn't mention the Metacritic rating for Gravity, and there's something important about the Metacritic rating. It's a 96% on Metacritic, which is amazing for a movie to have that high of a score. And I actually became really curious as to how good that is. And that makes Gravity the 28th highest rated movie of all time on Metacritic.
What's the number one?
I have no idea. It's well, the number one is re-releases and stuff like that, but it includes stuff like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Lawrence of Arabia, that type of movie. And right after Gravity is Ratatouille.
That's a fantastic movie. I need to watch that movie again.
is.
I think I'm going to watch Ratatouille this week.
That movie is wonderful. But yeah,
So good.
it's the 28th highest rated film of all time, which is amazing. Okay, anyway, back to American Mary. So this
Which
movie
is not in that list.
It is not on that list. You guys all know that the way that we approach the Netflix movie spotlight is that we decide on a movie that seems interesting, that caught our attention, that has a weird name, that just seems overall weird, that we've heard of from someone before, or that we've had on our to watch list for forever, that is available to stream on Netflix, and we watch it. So we invite you all to watch the movies that we talk here, or we don't invite you all to watch the movies that we talk about here.
It really has only so far the movies have always been lukewarm, and I'm really finding out that's a pattern on Netflix. All the movies are lukewarm.
Except for It's a Disaster. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie,
Yeah,
and
that
I
was
would
good.
watch it again.
But it also wasn't for everybody.
Right.
It was so
right,
niche.
Right. To each their own,
Right.
yeah.
And I mean, that's the same with American Mary. It was very niche.
Yeah, this movie, American Mary, was one that actually Cog Games mentioned to me. He said, "Oh, American Mary, it's supposed to be a great horror film that came out recently. We should."
Well, it's an uprising. So it's directed and written by the Soska sisters, who are kind of like the horror directors you should keep your eye on type of people.
Right.
And I like watching. What was their first movie? Was it Dead Hooker in a Trunk? It's very campy, and I haven't seen it, nor will I probably ever see it. But essentially, it was like, oh, that seems like interesting, and it was very campy, and it was an exploitive movie. While American Mary was very much more a horror movie, but it was very well done, paid a lot of homage, and Soska sisters, I hope they continue making movies. But let's dive into it.
Right. This movie stars.
Get right down to the skin.
This movie, wow. This movie stars.
That was a stretch that should be sewn back together. That was real. It was a real cut up movie.
Okay. I'm just gonna wait. I'm just gonna wait here. You go ahead, get it all out of your system, wash it out, make sure that you're ready to keep going, and then we'll keep going. Go ahead. What other puns do you have?
That's it for now.
Are you sure?
I just want to say that the main character also looks like a sexy Anna Faris. And then now we can actually move into the movie.
Okay, so Catherine Isabel is Mary, Antonio Cupo is Billy Barks, Tristan Risk is Beatrice Johnson, and David Lovegreen is Dr. Grant. And those are all the ones I'm going to name because those are pretty much the most important characters in the story. And let's go ahead and start talking about it. What did you think, Cog Games?
Overall?
Yes.
We're just going to dive right into it?
Yeah, we're just going to go right for it.
I thought it was good. It wasn't amazing, but it was interesting. Obviously, it had its flaws.
Right.
But I think a movie about flaws should have some flaws, if that makes any sense.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
It's essentially about the beauty of not being beautiful. It's about being okay
with who you are.
with who you are, but more or less who you want to be,
Like physically,
physically
yeah, physically, right,
and emotionally.
right.
And coming to terms with that. That being said, it still felt rushed because it tried to fit a lot of the story into a little time frame.
It did. It really.
So let's begin with that. Let's go over the film. So it's
Okay.
about let's give it a little bit of synopsis. So it's about Mary, who is a med student who wants to be a surgeon. She's very, very good. She doesn't have money. This woman finds her and asks her to do some sketchy plastic surgery that's totally legal, which we'll get
Can we
into.
pause and say that the woman was terrifying?
The Betty Boop one.
Beatrice, yeah.
Oh, she was so nice though.
She was so nice, but she was terrifying.
Oh, hell yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. So we'll go back to talk about that.
How terrifying everyone was in this movie. Go on.
Right. So she finally makes some money. She can actually afford med school. And then what goes and happens? Her mentor rapes her in a very brutal scene.
Ugh.
So therefore, she then quits med school and starts doing illegal plastic surgery, similar to what she did in the past to make ends meet. She kind of becomes a celebrity in this weird, obscure plastic surgery scene, while also seeking revenge on those who destroyed her life, the ones who raped her, who ends up being also surgeons. And then it's truly about like the rise and fall of a serial killer and sociopath, which Mary ended up being.
Right.
So in the end, she does die, which I felt was kind of lame. Not her death per se, but how she died.
The ending was stupid.
Oh, so abrupt too. It was like all of a sudden
it was awful.
dead. So I was like, oh God, that was like I tried to see what they tried to go there, but it was like we don't know how to end this.
The twist.
We don't know how to end
twist was just stupid.
It wasn't a twist. It was let's look at it was like the Surska sisters looked at each other and was like, I don't know how to end this. So they just I felt like it would have been better just to end on like a mystery of some sort.
Like some sort of an ambiguous ending kind of thing.
Totally.
Right. That would have served the film better, you're right.
I can see why they wouldn't want to do that. Anyway, let's start. Let's take the chunks of this movie and work from it from beginning to end because it felt like the movie drastically changes.
It did, definitely.
The film. So like the tonal feel to it.
Yeah,
so the beginning
the undertones
was very much like a rags to riches story.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So what do you feel about that?
I see. I really enjoyed the beginning of this movie up until about maybe halfway through the movie.
When she gets raped?
No. After that, that was all really good. It was really good because they managed to sexualize surgery and to sexualize operations and blood and gore really well. I was sitting there and I was going like, I feel really awkward right now. I felt really weird about it because it was really good at making you feel like this was supposed to be attractive and then confusing you about it.
Right, they kind of sexualized gore.
Right, and then
but not like an objective kind of feeling. It was like this. It wasn't gore. I'm going to bring up Evil Dead because
it wasn't. It wasn't gore for gore's sake. Right.
Like it was disturbing, but it wasn't gore for gore's sake. It was gore with a purpose.
Exactly. And
like the surgery and flops of skin falling to the ground.
Exactly. And they did it really well. They sexualized it, and then they ripped I suppose the metaphorical rug from under your feet, and they made surgery really cold and unfeeling afterwards. In the beginning, it was all sexy, it was all attractive, and then all of a sudden, boom, and you're watching her do modifications and stuff, and she's dressed kind of provocatively, and you feel cold inside. You feel empty watching it.
Like her, though, which was the whole point.
Exactly.
Because it starts with her being hopeful, and then she gets raped, and then she becomes a sociopath, and she was empty. And the only reason she did the surgery was because she was good at it, but she didn't want to do it.
Right, exactly. No, I completely agree, and that's why I think that the first about half of the movie, which is her being okay with it, and then them working on the surgery and the idea of surgery being a character, and then all of a sudden giving you a 180 on how you're supposed to feel with it, and then a little bit afterwards, all of that was great. They did a really good job. A really good job. And they worked really well with color and all of that, using reds, using whites, using blacks, and focusing on Mary as a character, where she was focused on herself, on forwarding her own cause and then using everybody else.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where in the beginning you could hear sounds from all around of what was going on, but then in the end you only selectively heard sounds. It was really, really weird, at least for me, having edited things together and working with sound and putting Foley into movies. It really kind of irked me, but at the same time I understood why they were doing it, and it kind of made me feel really weird that they had people grabbing glasses and setting them down or walking or touching people, and there was no sound. There was nothing, unless it had to do with Mary. If Mary was taking a drink, you heard her grabbing the cup, you heard her sipping, and you heard her clinking the glass back down. But then everyone around her could grab a glass, sip, put it down, and you heard nothing. It was
Except for the blowjob.
Except for the blowjob. It was just isolation. But you heard the blowjob because it was her focusing on the blowjob. It was about her. It was not about what was going on with them.
She wasn't the one giving the blowjob.
Right. It was about her attention being drawn to that.
Yeah. No, it was she went insane.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it was about her transformation. And I think they did a really good job. Trying to fit it in that amount of time felt a little bit janky, to be like, oh, she's really nice college student, to all of a sudden she's a cold blood killer.
Right.
Okay, I kind of get it, but at the same time, this probably would have done better. It's almost like they tried to come up with like a female Dexter.
Yeah.
That should have been in a series, but instead try to make a movie. But I think it worked for a while until the end.
Right. And the progression of the surgeries, at the very least, it's that first surgery really hits you hard.
Yeah.
It really, you don't...
The Barbie doll one?
Yeah, you don't see a lot of what's going on. You see enough of the cutting and stuff like that for it to get to you, but you don't see anything else. You just see, her covering up whatever she's doing and then just sort of plopping meat onto a table. Ugh. And it really gets to you. It really gets to you. And then you're thinking, how did she hold her composure so well during that surgery? You're wondering if you're the only one feeling that way inside. And then she gets back to her apartment and just breaks down crying, and you realize she feels the same way I do about that.
Ugh. Yeah, I was really surprised by that, like how much it actually hurt her to do that.
Right. I think the the characters themselves were great. They really were, and her character as I suppose an exploration of falling into insanity is very good, and they worked really well. And with the camera work, they really managed to do something wonderful. And I think that in one specific moment, and it's the time when she walks in to the hangar where she has the guy hanging. It's a hangar and she has the guy hanging. So
you mean the doctor that raped her?
Right, that guy.
What did she do to him? Did you like to describe it?
So she cut off all of his arms, doing selective amputation. She did the type of stuff that Chris Angel does, the hanging from his skin on hooks, so that he wouldn't be touching the ground. She had an IV on him so that he could survive without basically needing anything else in there. She modified certain parts of his body, adding little spikes or little the silicone balls that you put inside to raise your skin. She sewed, I suppose, words into him, sewed his mouth shut. Pretty usual stuff.
It was essentially her practice.
Right. And
he became the chicken that she was cutting up in the beginning.
Exactly.
Like, that's totally what it was.
Yep.
He became her little practice.
Her little turkey where she can practice all of this stuff. And she gets better and better, and she uses him in a scrapbook to show people what can be done.
Which was really stupid. Yes. Why would you take pictures of it and put it on a website? I was thinking, like, this person's missing and a detective talked to you and you want to put it on a website? What are you, stupid?
Yep. But I think that first scene when she walks in and she's hanging out with him and all of a sudden the police officer's right there and she kills the police officer, right?
Yeah. That was great.
Right after that scene, she's talking to the guy that's being her bodyguard, pretty much, that was working for the club owner.
The one that's like in love with her? Oh no, the bodyguard.
The bodyguard, the father figure. The father figure.
Yeah.
Right.
The really nice bodyguard.
Yeah, he was such a nice guy. Yeah, he killed people and he was a terrible person, but he was such a nice guy.
He brought her dinner.
Right.
That was so nice.
And he said that she didn't seem like a vanilla person, so he got her a chocolate shake. How nice. Yeah. So anyway, in that scene, the camera is pretty far away from them, and it's pushing closer to where they're sitting. And you can see, I'm going to go ahead and describe this from what I picked up from it, the metaphor. You have Mary, and you don't see the bodyguard. What you see is Mary with a piano on the right-hand side of the shot, and she's reflected on the black of the piano, and the piano, I suppose the lid, is up, the one that covers the keys, and she's reflected on that. And the camera's slowly moving forward, and it's almost as if Mary's having a conversation with herself.
Yeah.
And she's going like, I killed him, blah blah blah, all that type of stuff. And as the camera's moving forward, I started noticing, I was like, that's really nice that they did that. And all of a sudden, while I was thinking that, the edges of the piano, the specific edging of the piano started creeping in and slicing her into pieces. And I went, oh, that's nice. That's nice. And then you sort of saw her it was very slow, methodical slicing of her in half. And then she keeps on moving, and all of a sudden, when she gets sliced in half is when she's basically done talking. And then the camera keeps moving, and all of a sudden, that Mary that got sliced and cut up by the new Mary disappears from the reflection on the piano. The piano's left behind, and she disappears off one of the corners. And all of a sudden, you have the new Mary that's talking to the bodyguard,
which is a cold-blooded killer.
Exactly. And I thought that was spot on.
Perfect. No, they're very talented directors. For storytellers, I think it was very well done.
Right.
So let's just dive into the ending.
Okay.
Man, that was stupid.
That was so stupid.
Like the last 10 minutes of the movie. It was pretty good up to that point.
Right.
Some parts of it were just brilliant and ingenious, and then the ending. It was just like
I feel that these people are very good directors and not very good story people. You know what I mean?
Like but the story was fine. It was pretty solid. They did an okay job. Just that ending. It's like they wrote a really good story that wasn't supposed to have an ending, and they had to somehow come up with an ending for it. Right. And the ending was to somehow tie to the beginning, which was on the first person that she did surgery to, which was essentially to turn her into a living Barbie doll.
Meaning no down there area, except for the
no
area
genitalia.
To pee, and then removing her nipples, and yes, all that good stuff.
And she was married, and essentially it took... I don't know how long after that, but it was like
that was a long time. That was a long time. I don't know.
For her husband to return.
They didn't have sex or... Oh, right. That's why. I just figured it out. Her husband was in the military, wasn't he?
I don't know.
I think they said that in the beginning. They said her husband was, or her boyfriend was overseas.
That was her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't say... They may have said why. It was still stupid.
It's stupid. It's stupid that he shows up, and then... So he shows up, sees all the modifications that went on, gets really pissed, beats her to a bloody pulp, then runs over to Beatrice, beats her to a bloody pulp to get the information on...
He essentially kills her.
Right. To get the information on Mary, and then shows up to Mary's house and stabs her in the chest.
So stupid. And then Mary turns around, stabs him, kills him, and then she proceeds to sew herself up and then die.
Right. Though I didn't enjoy that ending.
This is in the course of 10 minutes. This was not like it led up to this point. There was no hints of this was coming. It was like all of a sudden, scene of angry husband, scene of Beatrice dead, then scene of Mary getting stabbed.
I would even push it further. I would say that all of this happened within the span of about 3 minutes.
Yeah. It was...
It was really, really fast. Really fast.
Abrupt and had no time for an emotional buildup.
Exactly.
Kind of, because Mary had the option to run away with the guy, with the strip club owner.
Right.
Reflecting like, you probably should have done that. But at the same time, it was there was no danger present.
Exactly.
When she made the decision, it was like, oh, she probably just wants to disappear because her Nana died. I'm like, not
exactly.
Nana. Even Nana died.
Right.
It also seemed kind of lame. But she just gets a phone call and all of a sudden, Nana? Oh, Nana's dead.
Yeah.
I have nothing left to live for.
Exactly. Though I do think that final shot where she's dead and you see her, it really captured the spirit of the movie, because she sewed herself up and she did a really good job sewing herself up. But for the first time since she got raped, she has a smile on her face. And it's almost like doing the body modifications was not what she wanted to do. You know, it was not her. It was not what she was meant to do in this world. And then finally, when she does a normal pseudo surgery on herself, when she fixes herself up being an actual doctor, she realizes that she's truly happy,
And then dies.
even if she's dying. Yeah, right.
Stupid.
Well, I mean, the idea behind it is good. The execution of the end of the movie is awful.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I see where they were trying to go, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
Would you suggest this movie?
I don't know.
Okay.
I genuinely don't know.
Good answer.
Oh, okay. Can I just say that? So before we finish, I want to mention that I started watching this movie while I was eating. I was eating dinner.
Oh, me too. I had to stop eating. I had to stop eating.
I didn't, but that's only because I'm a biologist first. So I've basically gone out of dissections and I've gone out of yanking on emu tendons and making their feet move to eating lunch afterwards. So it really doesn't faze me. But I would go ahead and suggest that people not eat during this movie.
I was the same way. I dissected human brains, and I just for some reason, I couldn't hack
You couldn't
it.
handle it?
I was eating cereal, which I think probably was part of it. Because I was eating dry cereal. It wasn't like wet cereal.
Right.
So I had to go into this box I couldn't see, and then pull it out, and then I was already... yeah, the movie was gross.
Right.
But it was gross in a good way.
It was.
It wasn't...
It's true. It was classy gross. And I can call it classy gross because she had classical music playing in the background whenever she was doing surgery.
Sure. But yeah, it was just gross. But it wasn't like cringe-worthy gross. But it kind of was.
It was very tense. Oh, let's talk about that scene when she grabs the guy that raped her and is going to do surgery on him. I was holding onto the side of my seat. My eyes were enormous and I was clenching. I was like, oh God, come on.
Like the first surgery with him?
The first time that she has him, you know, with his mouth open and everything, and she's just dragging the thing and clanking it on the metal.
God, yeah.
It was
that was intense.
Oh, that was God.
I'm glad they didn't show anything though.
Exactly.
Like, they kept it kind of a secret.
Exactly.
It reminded me of Hard Candy.
That scene was just it drug on for so long. I felt exhausted when it was over.
Oh. Yeah, that was another one that that was tense. Like I said, the Soska sisters have tons of potential.
They do. They really do. I hope they get a good script writer to make an awesome horror movie.
Or they write a good script.
Let's get real here. But yeah, before we finish, I want to touch a little bit on the science behind this, and I want to go ahead and mention something that kind of bugged me, which was the twins, which were the Soska sisters, the twins getting the thing where they switch their arms with one another.
Yeah, is that all they did?
No, they did. They switched their arms. They got little horns implanted. They had a little bit more modification on their mouth area and their, you know, stuff like that. Just normal, typical modifications. But the big one was switching their arm. And they switched their arms with one another. And can I just say that from a biological perspective, that is 100% impossible to do with Mary's skill set. Because chopping off someone's arm and then putting it on someone else's body and having it work is the job of microsurgery, and you have to be so incredibly specialized to be able to do anything near what she was doing that it is impossible for Mary to have done that surgery. She needed to go in and reconnect blood vessels and reconnect the really big nerves and then the tinier nerves, and she has to basically make sure that all of those work and then move it all together and sew her back up. You know, it has to be done in increments, and she has to make sure that everything's working. And then even then there's probably going to be permanent damage going on to that arm, and they won't be able to move it correctly because of the extensive amount of surgery that went on. It's just not feasible. It's not feasible at all, and it kind of took me away a little bit from the movie, but it's all right. Whatever. I mean, for a movie that had a lot to do with surgery and science, it was kind of a little bit...
It didn't have anything to do with science. What science was in it besides she cuts people up?
It was very methodical and very good in the way that it was done. The science and the aspects of surgery were done really well. They
Yeah.
they knew what they were talking about when they mentioned bones, when they mentioned muscle groups. They knew what they were
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a sidestepping of logic to have Mary do.
Unless they just didn't use their arms anymore.
Right, that's also another option, but you don't see it, so you don't know.
Which could have been an option because they
It
were
could be an
insane.
option. They-
I thought they were going to get sewn together, quite honestly.
yeah, same here. I thought they were. I was like, oh my god, they're going to be some sort of weird Siamese. Like they're gonna re-Siamese. Ugh,
Yeah.
ugh, ugh.
Anyway, I would suggest this movie. Going back to that, I've already suggested this movie
To who?
to Penguin.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Code
She,
word for a friend.
she's gonna.
She would totally like
She
this
would
movie.
totally like this movie. She would.
Right,
You're,
exactly.
you're
That's what I'm saying.
completely right.
She's way into like alternate lifestyles. She's way into macrobay. She's way into strong female protagonists, and so am I. So I fully enjoy this
Right,
movie.
I agree. I agree.
So there's definitely a certain type of person that would watch this movie. If you like horror movies and you kind of like the off-beaten path horror movies, this is probably right up your alley.
If you like good camera work and very tense setting up of situations and of characters, and if you also like pretty passable cinematography, I would say watch it. Do not watch it for the
Possible,
pretty
passable cinematography.
do not.
It was pretty okay.
It was all right. It was about a good 50% cinematography.
All right, let's move on to news.
Okay, so so yes,
Life is like a box of chocolates, cool guy. Tom Hanks can't eat it.
if anyone, before we go into news really quick, if anyone has any tips for Netflix movie spotlights, any kind of movies that you'd want us to watch and talk about, you're more than welcome to suggest it. You can tweet to Cognitive Gamer at the Cognitive Gamer, and you can tweet to me at the RightPad.
They can also email us at postgradentertainment@gmail.com.
Exactly, and we will be reading those religiously, so make sure to let us know anything like that. So
we have 0 emails.
again,
We should just start making up emails. This one comes from
This one-
Robert Rodriguez from the Dominican Republic, and he says, "Man, the Cognitive Gamer seems so cool. Is he cool in real life?" Yes, he is. Thank you very much.
Cindy Lou Who from Minnesota says, "Cool Guy is a relatively cool guy. I thoroughly enjoy his rants and the fact that he most of the time doesn't let the Cognitive Gamer speak.
Yeah, tell me about it.
He's authoritative, and I enjoy it."
Let's move on to movie news. You know what's like movie news?
A box
Life
of
is like a
chocolate?
box of chocolates, for which Tom Hanks can't eat.
Because he has type 2 diabetes.
It's awful. It's really depressing.
It is. It's
Let's move on.
it's sad.
That's why I make
It's
terrible,
sad,
terrible
and
jokes.
he has type 2 diabetes, and he lost a lot of weight for Captain Phillips. So,
Well, didn't he say he lost a lot of weight because of the diabetes?
right, that's exactly why. Yeah.
But he didn't get diabetes from losing weight. It was because of the diabetes he lost weight.
It's true. And okay, so yeah, he has
You know, Russell Stover
diabetes.
candy is awful. Like the sugar-free stuff. Ugh,
Are you going to
so
talk about
bad.
how it makes you poop all over the place?
It gives you diarrhea?
If you eat too much of it, though.
Right. Well, yeah.
Hey,
My dad's
chocolate
diabetic.
in moderate amounts.
Well, it's not. It's the fake sugar they put in it.
Right.
It just wrecks you. All right. What's next on the movie news?
Peter Dinklage, who plays Tyrion Lannister in the Game of Thrones series and is a phenomenal actor, is going to
He has type 2 diabetes.
No, he's going to headline an R-rated comedy where his character basically goes around and tells people that he's an actual leprechaun.
And then proceeds.
I don't know. That's all I know. He goes around and goes like, "I'm a leprechaun, yo."
Yeah. I'm straight up from the hood, G.
I don't think Ireland has the hood, so to speak, and I don't think they talk like that. Can you give us an Irish accent really quick, Mr.
Nope.
Phenomenal Accents?
No.
Go
Not
ahead.
giving-
Give us
No.
an
I
Irish
have
accent.
a cold. It makes it even worse, laddie. Them lasses over there are looking mighty Irish. I don't know. All right.
Oh my god.
The small
I
guy
finally have your absolutely terrible accent imitations, at least one of them
from- Ugh,
recorded. That feels so good because I've heard them for
Nobody
so
makes a
long
soundboard.
and they're so funny. And I finally have it recorded. Oh
All
god.
right, laddies. Let's move on to the next. Let us drink some green beer, my mates. say that.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
Oh, you can't catch my Lucky Charms.
Oh my god. Oh my god. God.
All right. So what else is on the movie news? Here they're making another Harry Potter movie, maybe. Peter Dick. Disney shuts down Pixar Canada, eh? That happened. Let's the next thing, what else
So
happened?
yeah, Disney.
Oh, Seth Rogen announced that he's making a new movie called Sausage Party. It's an animated film
Oh my god.
about a sausage. It's about a sausage, and he gets lost, and he has to make his way back to his aisle for the 4th of July sale. It's also being written by the other dude that made the other movies. Evan Goldberg,
Right.
Kyle Hunter, and Ariel Schaefer. Based on a story by Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, and Jonah Hill made. So, it's going to be funny and totally raunchy. It sounds freaking stupid. It's about a sausage.
It sounds really dumb.
It sounds so bad.
Really bad.
Oh, I hope it's good.
I do too.
I like Seth Rogen comedies. I know you don't. But, God, it sounds like 8 Crazy Nights, which was awful.
We're not going to go there.
We're not going to... How about Punch Drunk Love?
Yeah.
Now we're on Adam Sandler. So what else is on the movie news? We have the sausage parties, and we have the Peter Dinklage, and we have the type 2 diabetes.
Right.
What's left?
And also, apparently, well, let's talk about the Disney shutting down Pixar Canada. That's bullcrap.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's totally bullcrap. They shouldn't have done it.
You think they said sorry a lot?
I think that the people from Pixar Canada apologized to the people from Disney. Oh, I'm sorry that we didn't manage to do the best job that we could do. I'm sorry. And then Disney was like, you're fired. They're like, oh, I'm sorry that we're making you fire us. That's
You know what happened? Pixar probably just went to the studio. They walked in and it was like, man, this studio's just, did we employ just mooses? And they just walk in, it's just like mooses.
all over,
like, what
all
the-
over the place.
What? And then they're like, you're fired and we have to shut this down. This is weird.
So yeah, 100 employees are out on the street now. But hey, they're amazing people with amazing
Why did they
talents.
shut down the
So,
studio?
I don't know. I didn't actually try and find out any more information apart from them just shutting it down because I wanted to feel anger. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I wanted to feel angry and I didn't want to know why. I just wanted to direct my anger at Disney before I become really happy because they released Star Wars.
What they probably just did was they probably made
Downsize or something.
they probably made this Pixar studio essentially to aid with a couple movies.
And then they had to shut it down.
Yeah, well, it was probably just a temporary thing. Anyways, they probably just made it because they are working on their new engine. So they finished their new engine and was like, hey, we don't need to pay these people anymore.
See, but I think that's really stupid. And I'll tell you
That's
why.
what happens all the time.
I know, but I'll tell you why. I think that really goes to show the situation that's involved in the movie industry where they just create these phantom jobs that are meant for 1 or 2 movies, and then as soon as they're done, the visual effects industries or the people that make their algorithms all go downhill and everyone is all of a sudden out of a job. And I think that is bullcrap because while Hollywood and all these giant people like Warner Brothers and Disney are profiting, they're giving these really talented and wonderful and amazing artists that create all of the stuff that they make for these movies, they're giving them temporary work and then firing them for no good reason. It's stupid for them to create this for only 1 movie and then fire everyone. And I think
that's like, but that's the life of an animator for any medium. Like for video games, they do this all the time.
I know, and I'm saying that it's completely wrong. I'm saying that they should not be doing stuff like that. I'm saying that
they should have just been better.
I mean, it's
I'm
like
kidding.
it's like saying
our thoughts and our prayers and our apologies go out to everybody at Pixar Canada who is now without a job. But then again, you can probably walk into any place and just get a job.
And they have free healthcare, so it doesn't matter. So
wow, they also have Tim Hortons, which
they
I really
do
want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But see, I think it's a really great example of the stuff that's happening with that in the visual effects industry is Life of Pi. Life of Pi won an Academy Award for its visual effects, and then while they were making their thank you speeches, they got cut off because they were going to start talking about how they all lost their job as soon as Life of Pi was done because they didn't just they lost their jobs because there was no influx of money from any type of movie that they were making. They were basically all created overnight for Life of Pi, and then They disbanded, they were fired, and then their company went into the ground. And it's crap. It's crap.
Didn't they? I thought they came back.
Well, I mean, they keep the whole keeping coming back. Some of them actually do, but others is that the people that lost, they got fired from the company, they tend to form their own little groups and go and do more movies, and then they fail because that's what you do in visual effects.
Man, you're optimistic.
Yes. So, speaking about optimism, Darren Aronofsky, who's phenomenal at making optimistic movies, says that Noah, the Noah movie, has, or at least he revealed, that Industrial Light and Magic told him that it has the most complicated special effects shot of any movie that they have ever made.
So what is Noah? Like Noah's Ark?
Yeah, Noah's Ark story. It's specifically because of the fact that, I think that's what they were hinting at, that it was because they were trying to render all of the animals in the Ark in one go. And it was such an enormous and complicated shot. I don't know if it was camera related or strictly from a CG perspective, but it was such a complicated shot that the person talking from Industrial Light and Magic to Darren Aronofsky said, yeah, so Aronofsky, listen, we can only render this sequence out like 2 or 3 more times, so you better make your shots count.
What it probably was is like maybe the Ark breaks, so water pours in, and it's with all these CGI animals. So then they have to do water physics and then fur physics, and then like birds and everything at the same time.
Right.
That would be so
insane.
Yeah, that would be it would be near impossible. Or a fire breaks out on the Ark.
Right.
Or something like that. Like it has to be something physics related.
But it
then have to interact with other types of physics.
And you have to keep in mind that I believe that their last most complicated shot was the one in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Nope, not Revenge of the Fallen. Dark of the Moon, where the worm climbs up on the skyscraper, crushes it, and then the skyscraper falls. That far away shot of the skyscraper falling and the worm inside, because they had to they rendered not just the worm, not just the skyscraper bending and all of the beams on the inside of it, but they also rendered all of the glass shards that were falling, meaning it was at least 1 billion glass shards falling. And each of those glass shards knew what was behind it, what was in front of it, so you could see through it. And at the same time, it had a little bit of reflection, so it reflected each other. And then all of those pieces of glass reflected off of the metal of the actual moving parts of the giant robot. And then the giant robot reflected off of the little pieces of glass. So that was their last giant shot. And I can't imagine what the complexity of this one. I mean, I'm definitely going to see it.
Maybe a gigantic Transformers worm attacks Noah's Ark, and it gets reflected off the wood somehow.
Right.
The animals were there.
Okay, and I think that's all that we have right now for movie news. So let's move on to new on DVD and Blu-ray. And this week we have The Hangover Part 3, which is directed by Todd Phillips. Much Ado About Nothing, which is actually a Shakespearean adaptation that is directed by Joss Whedon. And I haven't seen it, but I've heard wonderful things about it.
I wanted to see that.
Yeah.
It has Nathan Fillion in it.
Exactly. It has a bunch of the people that he usually works with on TV series, and it's pretty cool. So I'll be
I really
watching
like
that one.
Shakespeare.
Yeah, agreed. Another movie that's coming out is The Purge, directed by James DeMonaco and starring Ethan Hawke. I haven't seen it. I was interested by the premise, and I will probably try and see it at some point because I'm interested.
I'll Redbox it.
Right, agreed. And then
it'll be on Netflix in 3 weeks.
Exactly. And then the last one that's coming out is After Earth.
Wait, is that the Scientology movie?
Which is directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh.
Yeah.
We have to watch that.
We have to watch that movie.
Oh.
I haven't watched it. I really want to rant about it here with you. So.
Have you already seen it?
No, I haven't. So
I haven't either.
We'll have to watch it.
I avoided it like the plague.
Let's see if it's on Netflix. If it's on Netflix, we'll make it the Netflix movie.
I really doubt it's on Netflix.
Whatever.
Actually, it might be. Maybe Scientologists were like, we need this to get to the most amount of people.
Right.
And then Will Smith. Hey, speaking of Will Smith, I live right next to where he grew up. And there's a pizza place that apparently is his favorite pizza place.
You said that on the first podcast, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I just discovered this pizza place that has pictures of Will Smith everywhere, and it's like his favorite restaurant to go while he's here.
Is the pizza good?
I'm going to check it out this weekend. I think it'll be a cool place to bring Miss Cog Gamer.
Exactly. Because she's flying in this week.
She's flying in tonight.
Tonight.
She'll be here in T-minus 4 hours.
That's exciting.
Which is like, I don't want to timestamp this, but Damn, it's late.
It is. Okay, so that was the new on DVD and Blu-ray, and then opening this week is Escape
Your
from
mom. Oh, snap. Self 5.
Escape from Tomorrow, directed by Randy Moore.
That looks
It
fantastic.
actually looks pretty good, and I would love to see it if I could. It's the film that was filmed covertly in Disney,
Yes.
and it's a horror movie.
I looked at theaters. It's not around me.
Ah, that's sad.
I wonder if it's on Amazon. If you can just stream it from Amazon. So Escape for Tomorrow, which is this movie that's filmed covertly in Disney. That's crazy.
It is. I'm really impressed by the fact that these people managed to get away with it, you know. But then again, there are millions of people that visit Disney, so I seeing them seeing you know
but
seeing
how could
them-
you make like a functional movie?
So I was reading that they had their scripts on iPhones and iPads and stuff. So it just looked like they were checking their social media devices. And then for them, you know, just following around with a camera, it looks like a home movie. And you know that you don't have to work with really professional looking cameras to get a really good shot. You can just carry around a DSLR and make it look good with post production.
Yeah, but I mean, viewing from the trailer, there's some really trippy things that I feel would not be. There's like elaborate costumes, there's sex scenes. All of this takes place in Disney.
Remember, they could have also filmed a certain area of Disney and held a still shot, and then filmed some people on green screen, overlaid them, made sure the lighting matched, color corrected them, graded, composited, moved them down into the shot, and then cropped the shot and made it shake a little bit to seem like it was there. You can.
I'm pretty sure they pride themselves on the fact that every scene was from Disney, though.
Well, then if they do,
Even
if they
those.
do, then that's impressive.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's impressive.
Okay. Anyway, so apart from Escape from Tomorrow, which will be interesting, is Machete Machete Kills, directed by
Should it be killed? We'll find out next time.
directed by Robert Rodriguez, who, get this, also directed all of the Spy Kids.
Yay.
Every single
That's
one.
really what you're gonna.
Every
He's also famous for a
single
lot of
one.
other things.
I know. I just found it really funny that he directed the Spy Kids because I didn't know that.
Spy Kids is great.
I enjoyed the first one.
The second one was okay. Yeah. Didn't he also do Shark Boy and Lava Girl?
Yeah, he did all of the Spy Kids all the way up to the 3D and then this,
Shark Boy and Lava
and Lava
Girl
Girl.
was in
Yeah.
Spy Kids. It was
Yeah.
just like in style.
but it was the exact same thing as Spy Kids. Come on.
Totally.
Totally the same thing. Okay, so, and the last one is Captain Phillips, which we will be talking about next week. Stars Tom Hanks and is directed by Paul Greengrass, who also did The Bourne Supremacy, and I hope he doesn't shake his camera that much in this.
He probably will.
I know.
I like shaky cam.
I know you
man.
like shaky cam.
Yeah.
I know you like
everything.
shaky cam. I might be a little bit bitter from one of the movies we worked on.
Shaky cam's great, and you know it.
Anyway, so yeah, that movie's coming out, and we will be talking about it next week when COG Games and Miss COG Games go watch it. Should be fun.
Miss COD games. That sounds so cheesy.
I don't know. We might change her name next week. So if anyone listens to this week and then we're referring to her as Blondie or something like that next week, just know that it's her.
That also sounds bad.
It does. Blondie sounds like a stripper name. Oh, wait a second. We have one more movie that's new on DVD and Blu-ray, and that is Europa Report, which is a phenomenal movie, or at least I think it looks phenomenal.
Is that a moon?
Yes, Europa
Of
is one of the
Jupiter?
moons of Jupiter, correct? The one that has sort of copperish color lines across it and an ocean under it. Well, I'm not going to get into the...
So what makes this movie impressive?
This movie, it just looks wonderful from the trailer, from the actors. It stars Charlton Copley, so
Who?
Kruger from Elysium, and Vicus from District 9.
Mm-hmm. No.
So it stars him, and it's directed by Sebastián Cordero. So it's
Say linguini.
linguini,
Okay, now say something Spanish, like say tortilla.
tortilla.
Mm.
I don't-
See how
I don't
it's
know what
different?
you're trying to get at here.
It sounds totally linguini. You like say it like an American, and then all of a sudden you get to like a Spanish Latino.
Well, because there's a difference between the American
Tortilla. Linguini.
tortilla and then tortilla. You know, it's different. It sounds.
And there's a difference between linguini and linguine. Like totally different, man.
You and your accents. But yeah, I mean, if I see something that's a Spanish name, I'm going to say it in Spanish. It's what I do. But yes, anyway, that about wraps it up for this week's podcast. But I'm thinking about adding a new section to the podcast that will be, I call it the crappy trailer of the week, that's probably not going to be every week. So it'll be whenever I find a really crappy trailer for a movie, I'll mention
Okay.
it, and then I'll maybe have, you guys can look it up if you want to, but I just saw it and I thought it was awful. I don't know if you'll be able to find it over there, but it was a trailer for, get this, Reggaeton the movie.
That sounds awesome.
It's
Hold on. Time out.
okay, we're going to go ahead and time out, and we will cut back in to see if Cognitive Gamer found the trailer online. We'll let you know.
Found it. So this is the best Puerto Rico has to offer in filmmaking.
No. We're going to go ahead and say that this is not the best Puerto Rico. This is not the best that Puerto Rico has to offer.
What is the best?
I would say it is 200 Cartas, which is a movie that just came out.
So Reggaeton, the movie looks awful. I love how halfway through the trailer it turned into just women dancing for like 45 seconds.
Wasn't that a really crappy trailer though?
Oh, it was so bad. I don't even know
bad.
what's going on.
It was so, I know, it doesn't tell you anything. They basically don't have any lines, and when they do, it's crap. They're pretty much just puckering at the camera and trying to act all gangster. Then they have shots of people on the ground all bloody every once in a while, then women dancing.
It made no sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as reggaeton. That's exactly what they talk about in reggaeton. They talk about three things: women, shooting and drugs, and being gangster. And I'm separating the shooting and drugs because it's very important to make that distinction, that there's some songs that are about shooting and drugs, and then there's other songs which are about being a gangster. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive.
So is this movie a parody of reggaeton music? Or is this a movie about like
this is a celebration.
This solid reggaeton
This is
music?
a celebration of reggaeton as an art form.
That's too bad.
Yeah. I mean
the music's whatever. I mean, it's like Lil Wayne making a movie about
really crappy rap.
Yeah. Crap rap.
But yes, so that may or may not be a new section because it'll be so infrequent, but I really want to call it the crappy trailer of the week. The not weekly crappy trailer of the week.
We could probably scrounge one up every week.
I just don't want to look for it. I want to just happen across it and have awful enter my eye holes.
Ah, so bad.
It was so bad. So yeah, if you all want to look it up, it's called Reggaeton the movie. You can go ahead and look it up on YouTube.
Out this month.
On YouTube, right?
Octubre.
Yeah, it's out this month, and I'm not gonna go watch it.
Not gonna pay money for that?
I'm not gonna watch that movie.
So that's the end of this podcast. You can find me on Twitter at Cognitive Gamer. You can also find me on theelectricfeast.com. I am the Cognitive Gamer, and I have a bunch of articles. I will have mine about gravity being just one big metaphor for birth.
At some point soon.
Probably, hopefully by tomorrow. By the time you hear this podcast, it'll be on the interwebs.
So I am Cool Guy Right Pad, and you can follow me at the Right Pad on Twitter. I tweet every once in a while, and I usually say self-deprecating stuff to myself or somebody else. Most notably, the Cognitive Gamer, if I actually wanted to talk to him on Twitter. And I also have a blog that I may or may not start working on at some point later. So yeah, good times. I am a lot simpler to contact.
We're PostGrad Entertainment. You should check out our YouTube channel.
Right. We also do screen caps of video games and talk about a bunch of stuff. Screen caps, yeah, screen capture. So we screen capture video games and...
What, do you think you're reggaeton now? You think you can do some cool slang?
No.
You're gonna cap those screens? You're a real G.
I'm done. So we do screen capture of video games and we talk...
You feel the gravity of the situation.
Just lean back in your chair. There you go. You heard that squeaking? That's him leaning back. So yeah, we do screen capture of video games that we play. We talk about science, philosophy, or hang out, or Cognitive Gamer acts like an idiot and dies a lot. And then we also have people deck building for Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon, a bunch of other fun, nerdy, geeky, awesome stuff that we thoroughly enjoy. So if you want to keep up with that, you can find us on PostGrad Games, PostGrad Entertainment, or PostGrad Movies on YouTube. And you can find our channel and subscribe. We would really enjoy it. If you want to contact us, like we mentioned before, you can email us at postgradentertainment@gmail.com, and we will make sure to take note of everything you all say. So with that in mind, thank you very much for tuning in.
Thank you.
See you next week.
You're beautiful.